All right. So now one of my, I guess everyone has their kryptonite, and mine is nutrition. As I mentioned, I like brownies, obviously. And if you ask anybody that knows me, hamburgers are my favorite food. I love a good hamburger.
Me too.
But it seems to me that when it comes to nutrition, for many athletes, that is the hardest part is having that discipline to eat well. Um, and as you can tell, there's a multi-billion-dollar diet industry, supplements and whatever. They're in business because people are, it's hard to hard
Yeah.
to change. There's a whole economy around that, right? And
Yeah.
so there are a couple topics, a couple things around nutrition, Jimbo, that I would love to touch on. First of all, the impact nutrition has on performance. Um, in your experience, you have a guy out there playing 162 plus games. Uh, Kids now are playing 5 games on a Sunday, right? Talk to me about nutrition and how important it is, just from a performance standpoint.
I think it's definitely not it's not addressed enough within the baseball community for sure, but it's just out of sight, out of mind. Like you don't think, okay, well, if I eat these French fries right before my games this weekend, then I'm not going to get a couple hits because it may not be that dramatic, but over time, especially if you're not putting good food in your body, without me getting into all the sciencey energy systems and that sort of stuff, basically you don't fuel your body well. You're not going to move as fast as you want to. Maybe muscles aren't firing like they should, and certainly your mental game is not going to be where it should be either because your brain needs that fuel too. And if we are not
Mm-hmm.
consistently putting good food in our body, it's going to be hard to get good results out of our body when we're trying to perform.
Right. So if I'm 11, 12, 10, 8, 14, 16. I remember I could eat anything I wanted at that age.
Right.
And we'll talk about this other thing, gaining weight, right? And I didn't put on weight, but that hamburger and fries and Diet Coke from Whataburger, it may seem like, oh, it's just something quick. Let's do it. But then you wonder, why am I hitting this performance roadblock? It doesn't
Yeah.
seem like I could run quite as fast. Like my reaction isn't quite what it should be. I don't feel like I'm on from a pitching perspective. It's not all nutrition. It could be fatigue. It could be a number. It's
Sure.
115 degrees on the turf, but
Yeah.
nutrition can certainly help.
Absolutely. And not even only that, it's just the nutrition especially helps you on the recovery side too. So if your
Oh
body
yeah.
doesn't have those nutrients that it needs to repair those tissues that you're, putting under stress every game, every time you're lifting, whatever it may be, it's a lot harder to recover, especially if you're playing that many games on the weekend. And then
Mm-hmm.
over time, you'll break your body down and we go back to the injury risk. That's a good way to get hurt. And that's just, it's something that I think a lot of parents at least think, okay, well, I don't have time to do XYZ. But really it's just you have to have a good, kind of baseline background education on it, know what to look for and kind of have a plan going forward. And then it becomes a lot less difficult. But
Yeah.
yeah, the weight gain stuff is for sure the biggest thing that we see on the nutrition side because,
Mm-hmm.
every little Johnny on every baseball team for some reason cannot put on weight. So,
I hear it. I feel like 8 times a week. Like,
oh
oh,
yeah.
they've grown 4 inches over the summer, but they still weigh 115 pounds, right?
Right, right. And it's each parent will give me, oh, he eats so much, or in the athletes will say too, oh, I eat so much. And then I go through, we're looking at their dietary habits on the app, and I'm like, okay, you eat a lot at dinner, but you didn't eat anything in the morning. You had a pack of chips for lunch, and then you ate a bunch at dinner. And then we look at your total calories and what your macronutrient goals should be. They're not close. So it's like
Right.
at a certain point, we know it pretty mathematically, just on a physiological level. If you eat X amount of calories, and we factor in, once we get an idea of what your metabolism is and how many calories you naturally burn throughout the day, we can almost put it to a T of like, if you're getting this many calories and these macronutrients, you're going to see some sort of gains. That's just how it works.
Right. Right. So the, and this is why I think we'll get into having a plan, right? You touched on having an app, being accountable is so important because I was telling my son, and we may have talked about it. I saw a video that The Rock put out, and what he had to eat to just maintain his body,
Yeah.
and he's eating like 3 whole chickens a day just to
Yeah.
maintain the Rock, right? Being the Rock.
Right.
And it's not that he is eating because he's hungry. Hunger has nothing to do with it.
Correct.
He is eating at prescribed times. He is taking, he's looking at his plan and he's eating the proper things. And some of this is not about, oh, it has to taste good. He's eating just
Correct.
boiled chicken breast, like the most bland thing that you can
Yeah.
get. He's not eating it for taste or whatever. He's eating it because
Right.
the math, as you said, shows that if I'm going to just maintain, not even gain weight, just maintain my weight, my stature, and my strength and my regiment, I need to eat certain things at certain times in order to maintain. And in
Yeah. And
baseball, nobody's talking about that.
No, and that's, I mean, baseball just really lacks on that piece, especially. That's a conversation that I have with parents pretty routinely. It's like, you know, and the athlete, you don't have to. It's no different from me saying, hey, if you want to get good at hitting, you need to hit 4 days a week, and here's what you need to work
Mm-hmm.
on. Um, do I want to go hit all 4 of those days? Probably not. I might be tired and want to play video games, but guess what? I have goals, and this is part of what I got to do to get there, right?
Right.
It's no different on the nutrition level. If I tell you, hey, I need this many calories in here, I need you to get this many grams of protein, carbs, whatever it may be. Um, at some point, we're not eating just for fun, right? You kind of hit it on the
Mm-hmm.
head. We're eating to fuel our goals, and uh, you may not be hungry. You may not want to go hit, but guess what? If your goal is to be 200 pounds by the end of your sophomore year of high school, it's just not going to do it by itself. You're not just going to wake up one day and magically be like, oh, I ate a lot yesterday, I'm 200 pounds out. No, it's going to take you being consistent, following a good plan, and then eating even when it may not be the most comfortable thing to do.
Yes. And for this, I'm gonna use a Jocko Willink quote.
Mm-hmm.
Her thing is discipline equals freedom. It is a
Mm-hmm.
discipline that gets you up in the morning and into the weight room. It's a discipline that gets you to the batting cages 4 times a week. It's a discipline that gets you to bullpens and pitching lessons. No different when it comes to nutrition. It's a discipline.
Correct.
It's a discipline, and it's not when I feel like it. Feelings, if you're making decisions based on what you feel like, then just prepare to fail now. Because
Right.
I don't feel like waking up at 5 o'clock in the morning and going for a run. I guarantee you I don't feel like it. Not when it's cold out,
Yep. Mm-mm.
but I do it so I don't blow up to 250 pounds, right? It's a discipline.
Yeah. And it absolutely is. And I kind of relate it back to those hitting lessons. It's like I always get, I always like once in a while I'll have parents be like, oh, well, you're gonna kill his fun. Like he can't have that piece of cake at the birthday party, whatever. No, it's like, okay, if I hit all the time, right? And then I take one day off and I miss it to go to my buddy's baseball party or birthday party, is that going to hurt me? Probably not. And I'm not trying to say the kids shouldn't have any fun. We usually follow what Marissa will call it as 80-20 rule. 80% of the time, we're fueling because we're trying to hit our goals.
Mm-hmm.
20% of the time, we're going to eat for flavor or just leisure or whatever that may be. And if you kind of follow that consistently, you see pretty dang good results because nutrition is one of the only ones that if I can pretty much put my name on and guarantee it. If you are following the nutrition plan like you're supposed to, you will see results. And if you're not, I can guarantee you that either A, you're not being honest with me,
Yep.
or B, there's a miss somewhere.
Yeah. And that's a good segue, just talking about the goal and the accountability. And so, so Pernetti Sports Performance and Nutrition, right? This is what you do. This is what you do day in and day out. When we first started our conversation, we were just talking about, I was interested in, I saw your training. And for me personally, and knowing what my son's goals, and you're truthfully, my wife and I would both benefit by not going to Whataburger or Chick-fil-A after every practice, right? So
Yeah,
there's a secondary benefit, and selfishly a
sure.
little bit. But I saw the program and thinking, hey, this will be something very good for me personally. This will be great for other parents to know about. And then you just rolled out some specific programs as well. So can you just like maybe just talk a little bit about what was the catalyst for you to begin Pernetti Sports Performance and Nutrition? And then tell us a little bit about what it is, what you're doing. And I would love to talk more about the sports specific programs.
Yeah, so kind of going back to when I was actually with Exos, it was had to be one of my final years there. But I eventually went out to one of the area code tryouts, and it was a
Oh,
Washington Nationals event. I'm sitting there with one of the cross checkers. I won't say his name, actually. It's probably not a good idea.
mhm.
I was sitting there with one of the cross checkers, and we're talking about the kids on the field. He looks at me and he's like, "Hey, I think maybe two or three of these kids could play for us." And he's like, and I think maybe a handful probably at the Division One level right now. And I'm looking, and I'm like, there's 200-300 kids out on the field. Like,
Studs, probably.
how
Area code
right.
games.
Oh,
I mean,
every
you're
yeah.
studs.
That's what I said. It was like every kid's good. Like, how is that even? He goes, because they're either going to go to junior college or they're going to have to register or both, because they don't have the physicality they need to play at that level. And that's when I hit me. I was like, Exos is a lot of fun. I get to work with really cool athletes all the time, but I was 6'2", 175 pounds coming out of high school. That was my big miss. I didn't have the physicality that teams
Mhm.
wanted from a corner infielder. Even though I was at shortstop, like you got to be big and strong and hit the ball far if you're 6'3", right? Um, so that was kind of where it clicked. Like, all right, well, how can I do something to be able to give this to the parents and the athletes that need it instead of just the athletes that are in here right now that have millions of dollars? Like, I would have killed to have something like that when I was
Oh
a kid.
man.
To have a nutrition coach, a strength coach, and a plan to follow along. I would have just given anything. So that's when I started kind of putting the details together, and things have changed as we've kind of come to see what parents want, what it actually looks like when we implement it. But that's eventually how we kind of started and where we got to where we are right now.
Yeah. Yeah. And then so you have programs, you do some training, in-person type training, up there near the Dallas area, as
Yeah.
well. But I'm a baseball guy, and that's where my passion is. And you just recently launched some sports specific programs. So I know you have
Sure.
some for baseball, for advanced, and then youth, and then the same for softball as well. Could you just take us through that? Because softball,
Yeah.
I think it were diamond sports.
Right.
Softball and baseball very
Both.
similar. So we'd love to, if you could just step us through and talk about the differences in that.
Yeah, so let me kind of I'll take you kind of through both programs because I'll be able to segue a little bit kind of easier off the first one. So the biggest thing we do right now on the remote side of things, and I explain this as simply as I can to the parents. So you have playing ball, you have a hitting coach, you have a pitching coach, but you don't. I would pretty much guarantee you don't have a strength or nutrition coach, and that's kind of where we come in and how we do the things. So on the remote level, if you're assigned a coach with us, right? You get the app and all the fun stuff on the app. So the app, you can do your daily check-ins. You'll have weekly assessments to monitor your progress. We already hit on the nutrition, but there's a nutrition tracking feature similar to a MyFitnessPal. And you have your training program with video demonstrations of all the workouts. So you know exactly what you're doing. You know exactly what your program is. And you don't
and
really have an
how
excuse to
and
not do
how
it.
to do those exercises without getting hurt, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Correct. So that kind of eliminates the intimidation from a lot of the parents. Is
Hmm.
like, okay, we know what all these exercises are and how to do them. And then the way that we deliver them is we meet with all of our athletes one-on-one with the coach on a monthly basis over a Zoom. We build out those programs every month and deliver them monthly. And we same thing on the nutrition side too. We build out that nutrition plan, deliver it monthly, and then we kind of give you all the tools needed along with it, right? We give you The sample meal plan, we give you a grocery list, we give you recipes, and those macronutrient
Wow.
goals all in the app too. So you get I mean, if you're following the program, there's no excuse for you not to get better. And obviously, that's not to say don't go practice your baseball, but you have to
Right.
do that too, obviously. This is just adding that, what we see as the missing puzzle pieces for a lot of these athletes and be able to deliver to them that way.
Yeah.
And
I
then,
love the idea of the shopping list because I can't tell you how many
oh, yeah,
times
that's a
when
hit.
thinking my wife and I, we have this conversation, I think every Sunday. So what are we going to eat this week? And I'm like, I have no idea. I'm hungry now. Like, let's just worry about now, and then we'll worry about tomorrow. Big mistake. Well, I'm not an athlete anymore. My son is. But
Yeah.
if we could say, hey, Saturday, we spoke to Jimbo, or we look at our app, not only here are the recipes, but here's a shopping list. Do we have any celery? Do we have potatoes or
Yep.
whatever? No. Okay, let's add it to our shopping list, get what we need, and now we're prepared. Preparation, right? We're almost back to those two
Yes.
things: being prepared and then being held accountable, knowing that
Mm-hmm.
if I the app is tracking me, if I'm not getting my
Yeah.
macros and whatever, then I'm not gonna perform, and you know it's gonna be an uncomfortable call, right? On next month.
Absolutely. Yeah, those meal plans and the grocery list are usually a big hit, especially for parents, because
Oh
rather than
yes.
you have to go do everything, you just print it out real quick and then you're on the way to HEB. Those are, I think the parents obviously like those a lot more than the athletes, especially when we're talking about meal preps and stuff like that.
Oh
But
yes.
yeah, it's like I also have, different people will ask about the app, but I kind of emphasize like you're getting the coaching with us, not just the app. So that's kind of our
Yes.
whole thing. Because,
Yes.
there's stuff you could find online in a million different spots. We are giving you the coaching alongside of that. And then
Yes.
kind of to follow that with the sport specific programs that we do. So I get approached by parents pretty frequently, like, okay, well, we have weights and things at home, and we just don't know what to do with our kid. We just want them
Mm-hmm.
to have some guidance.
And
So
I'll
what
be
we did
willing
is
to
we put,
bet that those
yeah.
weights have a lot of dust on them, right?
Oh, yes, yes. And
Yeah.
Texas is big on home gyms too, and there's some nice gyms around here. But yeah,
Mm-hmm.
collecting dust on the majority, I would tell you.
Right.
Um, but yeah, so we would get approached by parents. Hey, how can we just give guidance? We don't really need the nutrition stuff. Maybe my kid's a little bit younger, but I want to know what to do with them. So we decided to almost give different programs, and you hit on it, the youth and the advanced, more on a simplistic level where you're getting all the features of the app. You're also getting the training programs in there, but you're not going to get the personalized nutrition. You're obviously not going to get the one-on-one meetings with the coach every month, but
Mm-hmm.
you have a quality training program that's designed by someone that knows baseball or softball, whatever it is, and you're getting that on a monthly updated basis. Just kind of like you'd have any sort of baseball plan, like a throw-in program.
Right.
You want to know what you're doing, know that what you're doing is worth your time, and then know that you're going to get better doing it. So that's kind of the thing that we put together. We deliver those on a monthly basis as well. And then more of, a little bit of a step back of the kind of full holistic approach that we give to the private athlete.
Yeah. And I think about this because I can see that I can just see it, and you probably hear it all the time. Oh, well, I can do this. I can, as a parent, right?
Yeah.
I can find a program. I can do this. It's like there's this fear of allowing other people, like coaches, to take control of different aspects of your child's life. Like there's this
Mm-hmm.
control thing, right? And I can't tell you if you are you we talked about Exos. Do you think the NFL trainers are concerned that an athlete is going to Exos to get nutrition and performance? No. You know what they care about? Yards,
Yeah,
touchdowns,
absolutely.
sacks. That is the
Yep.
result that they are after, right? And so there's a saying I take all the time: it takes a village to raise a kid. So if you have a nutrition and a plan by someone who's experienced, like I'm not gonna go and I don't know what macros are and what my kid needs. I don't know how much he's burning. I feel like it's a lot, but I don't know. Why would
Yeah.
I not seek counsel from people who you have a remarkable education, you have the experience, you have the tools. Like, why not just accept that you know more about this than I do, and help, and just get the help. It's like, as a parent, you don't have to do it all. It's okay to seek
Hmm.
help from experienced and good people.
Yeah, I typically give the analogy, like, kind of go back to those hitting lessons. Like, parents are like, well, why don't I just find something online and do that? And I was like,
Yeah,
well, why do you take your kid to hitting lessons? Like, I can go find some good videos on hitting lessons on YouTube. I'm not going to get the coaching behind it, and I'm not going to get the really attention and care and accountability that you would get
right.
from your hitting coach, right? It's the same kind of thing. And I think we'll have a lot of parents too that just enjoy that we will hold the kid accountable. Because you hear one thing from dad. Dad said, "Hey, you should eat this much," and you're like, "All right, whatever." And then you hear from Jimbo, it's like, "Hey, I told you you need to eat this much," and he's like, "Oh, okay," like. And then, okay, well, Dad's not an idiot. Dad knows what he's talking about a little bit too, but there's also a coach that comes from a little bit more, I don't say expertise, but a little bit more knowledge in that subject area that the
Mm-hmm.
kid feels a little bit more relatable with, knows that it's not just dad saying it, that coach is
Yeah.
saying that too. And we're pretty good, especially on the more private side of things remotely. On those Zooms, we have parents sit in too, because
Oh,
part of
good.
it is education for parent and athlete. So it's
Yes.
you guys are going to get them at home every day, know what's actually going on. We like to have parents as part of the process.
That's phenomenal. That
Mm-hmm.
is awesome, because then everybody is getting educated. And
Yes.
when you have the shopping list, it's like, hey, I'm just going to get 3 of these, because guess what? I probably need to be
Yep.
eating carrots and broccoli, and get the lean hamburger versus the whatever's on
Yeah.
sale, right? I
Yeah.
remember,
Absolutely.
funny. We were, as a baseball player. We play for the Royals. You come into spring training. The heaviest, I would try to come into spring training around 180, 182 pounds. You
Hmm.
play a full year, and by the time I would get home, I would walk in and see my grandmother, and first thing that she says, like, you look sick. Because by that time, I literally lost 20 pounds of what?
Yeah.
I don't know, because I was probably like 0.15% body fat, just had
Yeah.
nothing, just skin and bones, right? And one of my coaches, we'll just call him Bull. That's what he went by, Bull. And he would say, Lagans. He was a Latin dude. He was his sons played MLB and everything. He played MLB. He was like, Lagans, you need to go home this off season. Chicken, beans, rice, and lots of beer. He wanted me just
Yeah.
to drink a bunch of beer to put on
Yeah.
weight, so that when I came into spring training, I was heavier, probably more like 185, 190, and I could maintain that body fat that would help me with injuries, because I would get hamstrings, or you're diving, and back then double plays, guys went in hard,
Oh
so
yeah.
you were
Yeah.
always at risk of injuries. But the beer was probably not the best diet plan, right? I should probably have sought an actual nutritionist who knew what they were talking about, versus like old school Bull, who's like, just drink lots of beer, you'll be fine.
Yeah, but you had some sort of plan. My dad had similar stories from when he was playing college football, and it was like, Pernetti, you need to put on some weight. Go find a keg of beer and make that your best friend with some chicken, pretty much.
Yeah, yeah, fantastic. So these programs, we're going to link to them in the video, and we'll post them on the site. We have a banner with your stuff floating around, and want to make it easy for people to find it, because I think this is, you just hear so often that the nutrition, the performance, the fitness. I'm seeing you don't always get it from baseball programs. Definitely not at the youth level. Sometimes you begin to get into high school, but if you can build, as you said, Jimbo, that foundation of strength, as well as the knowledge, like if you understand
Yes.
this stuff early on, not only will this serve you well in your sport or as an athlete, but can you imagine a world where kids grow up and they understand the idea of nutrition and their body and how to do exercise, and it's just they've learned it from when they were 8 years old until the time they're 80. We have such
Mm-hmm.
an epidemic of obesity and things of that nature. If we can just train kids to simply eat better, like, could you imagine, how much healthier these kids will be growing into adulthood? Man, that'll be an
Oh yeah.
awesome thing.
And I tell parents too, it's like, the worst case is if you join one of our programs or you do any sort of work with anything training nutrition, even outside of us, worst thing that happens, your kid is stronger, healthier, and more confident just in their everyday life. And those are habits that we want to build, obviously, for
Yep.
when they're older as well. So,
Yep. Fantastic. So, this has been fantastic, Jimbo, and I'm 100% serious. I need to get your wife on here, and we're going to deep dive on
yeah.
nutrition. Like, what is a macro? Tell me about, are there such things as good carbs? Because I need to know that, right?
Me too. Shoot.
we all we
Yeah.
all are looking for the good carbs and avoiding the bad carbs.
Right.
This is
Yeah.
really, really important stuff. But before we close, is there anything you would leave us with? How do people find you online?
Yeah, so our website is spnathletes.com. I think I'll just leave kind of parents with this. It's like it doesn't have to be our program. It doesn't have to be a certain program. There will be lots of programs that do things really well. What we find is that a more holistic approach to the training side of things, nutrition side of things, and having those all encompassed with the accountability of the meetings and the customization that we do is very beneficial to the athletes. But a lot of parents will get their kid to a training program every week, whatever group is being run down at their sports performance center. That's usually all good stuff. Just typically not enough. Like those kids
Mhm.
need, 3-4 days a week of getting quality training in, fueling their body properly, and then really having that guidance alongside what they're doing to keep them strong and healthy. So, doesn't have to be something in our programs, but I would highly encourage you. Any of this stuff is going to be fantastic for your kids. And unlike you buying them a new bat or something like that, these are things that I can just about guarantee you're going to see some results from if you take them seriously and do them right.
Right. So you mean the secret to hitting home runs? It may not actually be a new bat. It might be get a little bit stronger, maybe a little better mechanics. I'm just
Yeah. It's
wondering.
a little
Is that your
little
professional
side tangent.
opinion?
Yes, absolutely. Little side tangent before I get off here. We were at a showcase for Baylor, and I think I told you this story kind of off the
Hmm.
call, but we're at Baylor for a showcase a year ago.
Hmm.
One kid on the field that looks substantially better than every other kid. Like no other kids coming close to the wall. This kid hit 3 or 4 out of the park in his first round. And every parent, I'm just kind of browsing the stands. Every parent's like, "Oh, what bat's he using? Like, look at his batting stance, this and that." But I know because I train the kid. I say, "Hey, um, that kid's 20 pounds of muscle, stronger and bigger than every other kid on the field. That's why." And guess who the Baylor coaches asked about after that showcase? So it's
100%.
just a little tidbit right there. Bigger,
Yes.
stronger, moving better, and being more athletic helps you.
Yes. Yes. 100%. That is very, very good. Well, Jimbo, this has been fantastic. I'm pumped. I'm excited. I'm excited to get my own son on it. And because I know I'm going to
There you
benefit,
go.
I know my wife's going to benefit, everybody, healthy house, right? And so
Absolutely.
my hope is that the parents out there, they really take this to heart and begin to think realistically about their athletes' performance, their nutrition, and what's the need. Because I feel a lot of times parents have a tendency, myself included, you overestimate your own child's capability because you love them and you have a certain
Right.
view of the world based on what you know they're
Sure.
capable of, but then you have almost no real perspective of the competition that's out there. There are guys that are 20 pounds heavier, bigger, stronger, and you're thinking, why is it
Yeah.
my kid? Whatever. Like, parents, you have to be honest and real and do real things to get real performance. There's no amount of drip, no Bruce Bolts, no whatever the new cat, whatever meta, whatever the new bat is, can is going to outdo just a kid that's bigger, stronger, faster.
Right. And, I guess kind of one of the closing things, this stuff is on a timeline. So you can get that new bat whenever. If you miss out on, especially we're heading into fall and winter right now, right?
Yep.
Those are months of your time you cannot get back.
Yep.
And there are other kids that are doing something that you need to be doing right now. So I would just say don't wait. Like, be very proactive about this kind of stuff, because you just, especially with the nature of how competitive the game is right now, you can't miss out on that time.
I'm right there with you. Awesome. Well, Jimbo, thanks again. I appreciate you, and I think the parents out there are definitely they're gonna be a lot more informed now because of the information you shared. So, again, we'll get your wife on here about the nutrition part.
Absolutely, let's do it. I'll tell her she's obligated to do it.
Awesome. Well, thanks again, and we'll talk again soon.